Good morning, everyone. How are we all doing? We're just letting a few people in, but while we're waiting for a few people, can you tell me right now, where are you located in the world? Where exactly? Like if you're from Australia, where are you located? If you're from the Philippines, where are you located right now? And also, if you could let us know if you're joining as a practice manager or as an owner of the clinic, or if you're representing a doctor or a clinic right now, just let us know in the group chat. Hello, good morning, Dalvi. You're from Australia. While we're waiting for a few more people, I'm just gonna go ahead and share up my screen just so that when everybody is on board right now, we can go ahead and start this. We have a very exciting topic ahead, and we're just so um, excited for everyone to be, for this topic to be, for us to be talking about how we can leverage the power of our offsite teams. So, yep, you should all see my screen right now. Hello. By the way, just for, for everyone's information, this is the first time that we're doing it with GP Hero. So this right here is a history in the making, and we're so glad that you are able to join us because I don't know, but I'm gonna look back at this day in a few years from now, and I'm gonna say the first time that I did a webinar independently with GP Hero is on this day right here. And you are part of that history with GP Hero now. So thank you so much. And like we said, the topic is all about leveraging the power of offsite teams because that is what we do at GP Hero. We provide offsite support to our partner clinics. We cover administrative tasks. We also do reception calls. And lately, we've been delving into the digital marketing side of things, wherein we handle some of the websites of our partnered clinics and we do social media marketing for some of our clinics as well. So, we want to share how we can leverage the power of whenever we have an offsite support team, because maybe you've had an offsite team before that didn't quite work well for you, or maybe you're thinking of getting an offsite support for your team and you're not really sure if it's something that's going to work for you, or you currently have an offsite support team and you feel like you're not really maximizing the support that you're getting from your offsite team. So we have a few things to unpack today, and it is our heartfelt purpose that we are able to share something significant to all of you today. So to get started, let me just introduce myself real quick. My full name is Mayan Abrasado. I am the training manager of GP Hero, and we did 14 batches of training already. We are in partnered with 80 clinics and counting for now. And it was me who did the training, the very first training for a few of our heroes. And up to now, I'm still involved in the training. And I'm a proud manager of 3 people. Matter of fact, I have my support team here. Our junior trainer, Romeo, is going to help me out managing the group chat. So just in case you have any questions at any point in this webinar, go ahead and post that into our chat. And Romeo is going to save that out because we will talk about all of your questions at the end of this webinar. Romeo is also going to be posting some of the links just in case you missed out on any links that was sent to you on the email before this webinar. And yeah, we also have Demi right here, the head of our marketing, who's going to help us out with chat and with letting people in as more participants are coming in. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and ask you if you have already downloaded the workbook that was sent to you via email. If not, Romeo has just posted the link. Thanks for being so advanced, Romeo. He has just posted the link right there, so you can go ahead and download that workbook. It's essential that you do that because it's gonna be like your notebook right there, like your personal note-taking tool. Because whenever I attend webinars, and at the end of that webinars or at any seminars or any talks, really, it always is a translation of a different thing per person. Like we always resonate differently per webinar. So it's important that you downloaded that workbook because something that that is a reflection to you may only be specific to you, so you can just go ahead and use the workbook right there to do some reflections, to do some note taking, and then we'll also do a collaborative or an interactive thing later at the end. I mean, while we're doing this webinar, I'm going to ask you to do something in the workbook just so it helps us see things at a much clearer picture. And so to get started, um, I'm going to go ahead and ask you a few questions before we do the proper introduction of this. I want to know in the group chat right now, are you currently hiring? Now, before you tell me you're not hiring or you're fully staffed already, I want to ensure that that full staff means you as the practice manager or you as the owner of the clinic, you're not covering for any administrative tasks. Like your focus while doing the practice managerial role or while you're the owner is really working on the business, meaning you're busy strategizing, you're not busy covering shifts, you're not busy doing reception roles. So let us know in the chat box right now if you are currently hiring or you're fully staffed already. Hi, Kelly, good morning. So you're good at the moment. That's great to know. Kelly is already a partner with GP here. We're so happy that you're here with us. Can we get any more shares on the chat right now for our participants? Not hiring. Thank you so much for that, Dalvir. Now, my next question would be, let's rate the performance of your admin team, and we're gonna do it with colors. So in your workbook, or if you're comfortable sharing that on the group chat right now, if you say that your admin team is on green, meaning that you are very satisfied with the performance that your admin team is doing, meaning you don't ever miss on anything, emails are properly managed, calls are answered all the time, Medicare batching is done on time, you don't miss on any billings, you don't miss on anything because you see that your team is working harmoniously, and that's green for you. Now, when we say our admin team is at orange, that should mean that sometimes you see them doing the right thing, sometimes not. And you ever wish that you always wish that you see that consistency in the performance of your team, because sometimes you see them going above and beyond for you, and then sometimes it's just really missing, and sometimes you have to run back and cover some of the stuff that they should have been doing, and that's orange right there. And a red would mean that your admin team is just so bad at doing anything. You constantly miss on deadlines. You constantly missed out on some of the things that you should have been doing. Emails are missed. Documents are not allocated properly. And nobody wants to pick up that phone call to speak with a patient. So really, it's just so bad for you right now. So let us know in the chat. So Kelly says orange in some areas, green on most. That's great to know. Dalvir says orange, and that's completely okay. Thank you for that honesty. It's important that we look at this from the perspective of a practice manager or as the owner, and that it's important that we take it from a point of honesty, because there's a famous quote that I live by that if you are able to identify the problem, you're already solving 50% of the problem. And that's what we're trying to do right now. We have to see what we have to work on before we can properly solve the whatever it is that we have to work on in our clinic. So thank you for your shares right there. And then let's talk about your staff to cost budget. So how is that going for you? When we say green, you feel like the cost that you're paying for your staff is just well within the budget, and you feel like you are really getting your money's worth. Like the moment that you see it and you compare it to the effort that has been given to you by your staff, you feel like this is just right, and you're getting your money's worth. And when we say orange, sometimes it's well within the budget, sometimes it's not within the budget, sometimes you're questioning yourself, like just like with the admin team performance, why you don't ever get the consistency rather that you're looking for in your admin team. And then when we say green, it means that your staff cost is way over the budget. Like the moment that you see that right there, you almost automatically want to faint because it's way over your budget. And you plus the bad side of that is you don't see efforts being put in place, or maybe efforts are there, but it's not really up to the standards or your expectations. So let us know in the chat right now. Kelly says she's green. Dalvir says he is orange. And so my yeah, the green should mean that it's currently good. Thank you for all of the shares. And for those who have just joined in, welcome everybody. If you haven't downloaded the workbook, Romeo is gonna paste again that link into the chat box right now so you can join in and take notes on your own. So what we're trying to do is just really picture out how is the overall health of your clinic. Because at GP Hero, and this is the main gist of our topic right now, or the main point of our webinar. We'll talk about 3 key metrics on how we can leverage the power of your offsite team. And to be honest, for me, this also works with your onshore team. And before I delve deeper, you may be wondering, why is there a need to talk about these things? Like, don't I just come to GP Hero, or don't I just go to a specific virtual assisting agency, ask you to provide me with a person, and that person sits automatically and does the thing for me? Well, the answer to that is, let me give you a specific scenario so it's more clear. The moment a person walks in your front door and say that I have about 10 years of experience working as a receptionist for this clinic, do you automatically sit them in that reception desk, or do you still take time to train the person? So I'm sure the answer for everyone is that we still take the time to train the person, even with someone who's packed with experience, even with someone who's packed with training. You still have to do your part in ensuring that this person understands the culture fit, the resources, the process, and how I do things here in my clinic. And that's mainly should come from the practice manager and the owner, because it's you who sets the standards. It's you who knows what a good job should look like for you. It's you who has the expectation, and it's you who knows what has to be done. So you have to do your part in ensuring that this person understands. Because here at GP Hero, we conduct a 2-week intensive training with all of our staff, meaning we have fully trained them on everything, may it be from the Australian culture, the time zones, even the slangs. And more importantly, we have talked about things revolving around healthcare, like how do we enroll in Medicare? How do the MBS item works? What are the limitations when it comes to CDM, health assessments, and the tools like best practice, cubicle, hot dog, automed, you name it. We have all of that trained up. But even when we onboard a new client with us, we always tell them that it is a must for you to ensure that your hero understands your specific clinic SOPs, because no 2 clinics are ever alike. You always have your own way of doing things. You always have your own way of managing things for you, and you always have your own way of what does a good job look for you specifically. So right now we'll talk about the 3 key metrics, and we have a very deeper discussion about each of the metric that we have here, but we're going to touch base on each of them, and that is task, training, and communication. And it's with these key metrics right here that we're able to leverage the power of our offsite team. And we'll start with tasks right now. So in tasks, you have 3 steps. Number 1 is identify. So when we say identify task, if you want a task to be completed, you need first to identify it, right? Like, like what I said a while ago, you can't actually solve a problem if you don't know the name of the problem. Likewise, you can't expect people to be doing things for you if you haven't identified what must be done, right? So naturally, if tasks are not identified, people are just going to work with whatever is in front of them. And we see the effect of, forgetting some of the backlog stuff, and the things that are very important can be sometimes are already in the backlog stack because your staff is actually busy doing what is right in front of them, because there was no way for you to identify the task. And in identifying, it's not just really naming the name of the task, but it's also including the cadence and the priority. And we'll talk more about that in a few, but that's step one right there in completion task. If you want something to be done, you have to name it. If you need tasks to be completed in your clinic, you have to do step one, which is identify tasks. Step two, of course, is to assign tasks. Now, when you identify tasks, you don't expect people to just, hey, team, here's a list of the things that I need to be done. You don't ever do that because that's not really efficient, is it? Like the moment that you do that, I'm pretty sure that people are just gonna pick on the things that they want to work on. And then what happens with the stuff that that you don't like to work on? There's a webinar that I've attended wherein they said tasks are like frogs. So I don't know about you, but frogs are just a scary being to me. And then the professor was like, no matter how ugly it is, you have to consume it, you have to eat it because you have to do it. And it's like that with tasks. Like, because it's assigned to you, you actually have to complete it. Now, imagine if you just hand out the paper or do an announcement for your team, like, hey, team, this is the task that we have to do, but you don't ever do the assigning. I tell you right now, people are just going to eat the cake, meaning they're only going to eat the easy stuff and they'll forget about the frogs. But those frogs can signify, I don't know why I'm talking about frogs, but it's an ugly thing, is it? Early in the morning, I'm talking about frogs already, but you get the idea. Sometimes it's ugly like that. Like, I don't really want to do this, but then it's an important thing. It's important stuff that you have to work on. And that can only be completed when you assign it to someone. And then of course, step three, when you already have identified, when you already have assigned tasks, you need a way to verify if tasks are done or not done. And it may be a complex thing because whenever I talked about this with practice managers, they always say, May, I don't have the time to like go back and forth and see if things are being ever done. Don't worry, because we actually have a tip for you on how you can properly verify, because we have been doing this for quite some time. So we understand the burdens. Nobody likes micromanaging. Like me as a manager myself, I don't like micromanaging my people because to me, I already have a lot of things that I have to work on. Why do I have to work on the things why do I have to organize your things right there? So don't worry, we have a lot of things to unpack, but that's just really the introduction on it. Now, as I'm erasing my doodle right now, and Sarah just talked about frogs right there. As I have deleted that, kindly let me know in the chat in terms of tasks, or maybe you just want to write it on your workbook. Are you green? Like, do you think that in your clinic you have all these three in place? Or maybe you're orange because you have a way to identify tasks, but you don't have a way to assign tasks. Or maybe you have the first one and two, but you don't have a way to verify tasks. Or maybe you're red, meaning this is ever non-existent in your clinic. And it's okay to really be honest. Just go ahead and share that. I also just really want to be clear that for tasks to be completed, you don't do a shortcut. What it means is that you have to ensure that this is first in place. And then once that's done, you go to this. And then once that's done, you complete this. You don't go from step one all the way to step three, because I tell you, you'll be missing out on a lot of things. And you'll learn why in the next few slides right here. But that's basically tasks for you. And then let's go to training. So training is really my specialty. I always say to people, it's really a passion. It's what I'm born to do. I don't know if you're ever born for something, but to me, I feel like I'm born to do training. I'm born to do, to do talks in front of people. And I never saw, in the years that I have been working, I never saw any company that has been really successful without a training, right? So in training, though, it is important that number one, we need to have resources, because if you want this to be completed, you can't expect them to do it without you ever doing the proper training. And with proper training comes number one, with resources. You need to have your own SOPs. You need to have your checklists. You need to have scripts in place, because with resources, it's helping your people to be guided on the things that they have to do. So that's step one right there for training. And then of course, you need a person. right? Step two, trainer. Very important because somebody has to teach this to a person. Now, people have been telling me, don't we just read something and then, read something and then understand and then apply what we have read? I tell you, that's not always effective. Like 90% of the time, the people who has read something, especially if it's something so uninteresting, like if it's okay if it's a book, if it's a lovely book, like I'm a Harry Potter fan. If it give me a Harry Potter book and I'm good for the rest of the day, but if it's not something that you like reading, you won't understand a thing. And therefore, you need that human connection. You need that human touch to ensure that resources are being properly understood by the people who are reading them. And of course, when you have resources, when you have a trainer in place, you also need to do a competency check. When we say competency check, you're not just checking if people understands your resources, you also are checking if the resources that you have in place are indeed still valid, or is there anything that needs to be updated? With the modern technology, everything is just really so evolving. With my Medicare coming into place, a lot of things has to be done. So maybe we have to go back into the resources, do a competency check, and it's see if it's still working with the current environment that we have right now. And that's specifically training. So while I am erasing my doodle here, let us know in the chat box in terms of training, where do you specifically lie? Are you green because you have all these three in place? Are you orange because sometimes you have the resources, but you don't ever have the training, or you don't have a competency check, or you're red because you don't have that altogether? And then the last in this triangle model is communication. So to leverage the power of your offshore team, this is a key ingredient. Like, trust is fostered with communication. And communication is, whenever it's not there, I always see this, that relationship crumbles without communication. We tend to misinterpret things. We tend to misinterpret, or we not tend to understand the other person without communication. But communication is not just really talking and listening. It's actually a whole lot of things. And that number one is collaborate. There must be a collaboration for it to be an effective communication. It doesn't mean that we are the owner and that we are the practice manager, that we hold the ultimate truth when it comes to running our business. People can have bright ideas. People can have an efficient way of doing things. And if we are open to collaborating, we will see that our team would grow. We will see our communication fostering, and we would see that we actually have a lot of ideas that we have not taken into consideration that can maybe make things go faster, right? And that's collaboration. Second is ask for help. It is important that we let our people know that there is a way for them to ask for help. But then I also want to be clear that you as the practice manager, you as the owner, you have to be very clear in what does this look like for you, because it differs per person. Some people, they have an open door policy, meaning no matter how basic a question is, even if you have repeated it multiple times, you're welcome to come into my office and ask me that question 1 million times. But then others, because you're kind of busy, when people go to you to ask for help, at the back of your mind, you're thinking, what have you done before you came to me? And if that's not properly communicated with your team, then you will be misunderstood as a practice manager, and they wouldn't know what to expect from you. And maybe they would, like, cower down and just keep it to themselves. So we'll talk more about that in the next few slides. And then, of course, very importantly is closing the loop. Now, communication, if it's not close, it stays open. And in healthcare, that's like a leeway for inaccuracy. We have zero tolerance for inaccuracy, right? When it comes to healthcare, we can't ever be wrong about something because it affects a lot of things. It affects the patient's health. It affects how the doctor is going to read this. It affects the rest of the team. So communications must be close, meaning we have to be accurate. We have to be on point with our communication. And we'll talk more about that in a few, but let us know in the chat box right now, where do you lie in terms of, in terms of your communication? Are you mostly green because people are really good with communication with your in your clinic, or are you mostly red right now because you don't ever see anything? And then orange, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's a miss. So what's your primary color? And Romeo has also dropped our clarity call link. So maybe you don't have time to finish this webinar. So let us know, and then you can actually jump into the clarity call just in case you're sure that you want a virtual assistant for yourself. You can go ahead and schedule a clarity call with one of our offsite specialists. Also, this is being recorded by our team at GP Hero. So after this webinar, you definitely will get a recording of this webinar just so you can go back and review what has been said in case you missed out on some things. So that basically is the three key metrics. Now, let's go ahead and see what is your primary color right now. Let us know in the chat box. Are you red in terms of task, training, and communication, meaning it's not ever existent? Are you orange because sometimes you're good in training, you're good in task, but you're not good in communication, or are you red? So let us know in the chat box. We're waiting for you to type that thing right there. Don't worry about the frog. We'll forget them. Oops. Okay, that's okay. Yep, orange. Thank you so much for that, Kelly. Orange. Yep, that's okay. And what we're trying to do right now is we will try at the end of this webinar to give you a way to turn those oranges into green. And if you're already dark green, I mean, if you're already green, we will turn those into dark green. So let me tell you first why people come to GP Hero. Number one, they want to get leverage. When we say leverage, they want to get their money's worth. They feel like they have been paying people, but they're not really getting the satisfaction of ever, getting the job done. Like people in the office only does the bare minimum. They feel like they have to pay more to like get things done at their clinic. And so they come to us because they want leverage for their money. The next to that is they need things to be done faster. Like they see their receptionist team being so busy with a lot of things that they don't have time for the more important things. Like I've spoken with a lot of practice managers already, and they would always come to me. My worry is that we always missed out on reception calls. We always missed out on patient calls because my receptionists are so busy with some of the back end tasks. Or others would come to me and say, we have 1,000 files that has to be allocated and we really need help. So they need things to be done faster. And then, of course, people come to us because they're looking for that calm, efficient environment in their clinic. They want the time back. They want to give their receptionist the time back to focus on the more important things. They want time for themselves to maybe get a 2 hour at least in their day to do strategizing, to maybe, schedule that coffee break, or maybe properly welcome a new doctor that's in the clinic, or maybe just to sit down and really think things through. So people come to us because they're looking for that. I want to know the moment that you receive that invite, what are your reasons for joining this webinar right here? It can be because it was one of those things, or it can be just because you're thinking of a way to leverage your offshore team, or you're thinking right now, there's a lot of things that I have to work on my clinic. So let us know in the chat box, what are your primary reasons um, for joining this webinar really? So let's get some shares in the chat box right now. And again, if you haven't downloaded the workbook, thank you so much, Kelly. Leverage whole team, we're here for that. If you haven't downloaded the workbook, Romeo is again going to paste that into our chat box. Let us know what are your reasons for joining this webinar. Staffs are very busy, so can't pick up all calls. We feel you. We've spoken to a lot of practice managers that has the same problem like you. So then let's get some share before we proceed to, talking more about all of those metrics. What is a one insight for you? Like what has been the highlight for you so far? What have you been learning so far? And I hope that nobody here tells me that they learn about frogs today, because that's going to bite me at the end of this webinar. But let us know, what is a highlight for you right now? What is a reflection? And if you can also let us know in the chat box, what is one action that you want to take right now? I wish we can put some music on, like do while while we're waiting for you all to type in your, and maybe you're just frantic right now and say, wait a minute, ma'am, I'm typing right now. Close the loop. Thank you so much, Kelly. Yep, very important in communication, very important in relationships, really. Thank you so much. All right, I'll go ahead and just allow you to type your thing in there because right now I'm going to go ahead and delve deeper into each of the key metrics and we'll start with tasks. And like I said, in task number one is you need to identify. And when we say identify, it's really not just you naming the list of things that you have to do. It's also you putting in how often does this have to be done. Because if we don't do that, like I said, we're not really guiding our team properly. Like if you look at us at an office setting, you most likely have two high performers and then the rest are like really middle or low performers. Now observe what these high performers are doing, list all of the tasks that they're doing, and maybe if you're able to clearly identify what must be done, you are giving these low performers a chance to be up into the level of high performers. I'm going to show you a sample of a task list that we normally give to our partnered clinics. And if you see right here, we have the name of the task, meaning what we can do for your clinic, the cadence, is it when it's only needed? Is it a daily task? Is it a weekly task? Is it a monthly task? And we also have categorized it based on the job type and the master category. Is it an admin task? Is it an account task? Is it a marketing task, for example? So this is actually available in our website as well. If you go to www.gphero, I'm mumbling right now, gphero.com.au, you actually will have this ultimate checklist that you can download if you want a copy of our task list. But this is what we mean when we say you need an ultimate task checklist. It has to be with the name of the task, and then you have the cadence, the job type, and as much as possible, the category, and then you put in here the priority. So this is a normal task checklist. And going back into our webinar, we actually have created this because I'm going to share to you a success story right now as I'm going through all of my slides right here with one of our clinics, really. So initially, when she came to us, she was really like deep neck in terms of the task. Like she doesn't really know what to do because she feels like everybody in her clinic is just so busy. Her name is Claudia. And so when she came to us, she actually was like, I need help with this. And so what she did is that she lists down all of the things that she needs to be done for her clinic. And then she gave that to us. And then what we did was collaborate with her and say, these are the things that we think that your hero can work on the first few months, because there has to be a transition. We can't really like drop everything onto a VA. We have to ensure that there is a learning phase. And so what we did was we reported back to her and she was like, okay, I'm really good with that. And so we conducted bi-weekly debriefs just to ensure that it's up to her standards. And now she's really satisfied with the amount of work that her hero is doing at the same time, because she was able to clearly list the task that has to be done. Her onshore team is well guided as well. So do you see the effect on both sides? It's not just really beneficial for your offshore team, it was also beneficial for her onshore team because everyone was guided on what they have to do. Aside from that, when we're able to identify tasks, we also are putting in the accountability, which comes the next part, assigning tasks. I have three hot principles coming in a minute, but when we say we assign tasks, we have to ensure that we're assigning it to the right people. Because when you're assigning a task to the wrong people, I guarantee 100% of the time, I see this a lot, you are never going to get the results that you want. Because maybe it all boils down to you assigning the task to the wrong person. Now, what does it mean when we have to assign the task to the right person? We'll talk about that in a few. And then, of course, there must be a way for you to verify. Now, this part, I hear a lot of practice managers say, I don't have the time to really go 1, 2, 3, 4 and check if everything is indeed done like all the time. So maybe a thing that you can do is ask your people to communicate back to you the things that they are doing. What we do at GP Hero, we always ask our VAs to furnish an end of day report to our clients, because we're not located in the same office. So it's technically impossible for you to fly here in 1 hour and then see what your VA is doing and then fly back home, because I think it takes nine hours to travel back into from Philippines and to Australia. So a way for you to verify is ask your team to provide an end of day report, what they have been doing. So in our end of day report, we tell our heroes to, number one, list all the tasks that they have been doing, status of any uncompleted projects, were there any challenges that they have encountered during the day, and then of course, what are their goals for today and the amount of time that they have consumed for each of the tasks. Because then with that verification in place, you are seeing if people are overutilized. You are seeing if maybe this person is unproductive. Maybe I need to assign more tasks to this person. And that all boils down to verification. Now, in your workbook, which I'm going to go ahead and jump on, in your workbook, you will have this bar right here because we want to do a bit of a reflection, and I'm going to give you a few minutes for this one. We'll rate how much time you are working in the business versus how much time you're working on the business. So when we say working in the business, it means that you're doing administrative tasks, you're doing allocation, you're doing reception phone calls, you're busy covering shifts, you're chasing doctors, you're busy with all of the admin level stuff. Versus working on the business, it means that you're busy strategizing. You're busy looking if your financial health is still well within the budget. You're busy onboarding new people. You're busy with the things that only a practice manager can do. So what you can do in your workbook right now, red can be signified by the time that you're working in the business. So just go ahead and color that bar right there. So maybe this is you're working too much, working in the business. And then green can be working on the business. Right? So if you can see with what we have right now, as you're doing your color right there, a practice manager like this means that they're working all in the business too much and their time spent working on the business is just too little. So what we ultimately want for some of our partners is like this. Not really some of our partners, all of our partners really, because we want to live by that expectation of us alleviating the burdens. This is an ideal, this should be an ideal working time for you. Like you're busy working on the business and maybe there's a little window for you to work in the business because sometimes things are out of your control. Maybe your staff is called in sick. Maybe you need to cover some of the shifts and that's completely okay, but that should not take majority of your time. Now, what you can do if this is you right now, I'm sorry that I call her like my daughter. I'm always not within the lines. Right. So if that's you right there, there is a way for actually for you to like turn this around. And it comes with really task identification. So this here represents working in the business, and this here represents working on the business. So you need to identify what are the tasks that you are busy working in the business. And that's what you'll do in the next page of your workbook right there. We will delegate and elevate. Like I said, you need to identify what are the tasks that is represented by the reds right here. So in delegating and elevate, you have 4 boxes. You can do this after the webinar. And what you'll do right here is clearly specify what are some of the lists or what are some of the tasks that belongs to each of the baskets. So I'm going to walk you through right now. The first basket or the first box is really don't know how to do and you don't want to learn. So people have been telling you that you need to update your website because the new doctor is not reflected on the new website that you have, or the new doctor is not in the website right now. Or people have been telling you that you need to be more aggressive with your social media marketing, or maybe people have been asking, we need more infographics, we need more videos for our clinic. And that's something that you don't know how to do and you don't want to learn because you technically don't have the time. So put that in the first box right there. After the webinar, maybe you want to sit down, have a tea, or just reflect on things and then list down all of the tasks that you don't know how to do and you don't want to learn. The next box is you don't want to do and you don't enjoy doing. So I've spoken with a lot of practice managers, and it was only one practice manager who told me that her staff enjoys chasing debtors. So if that's someone like you don't want to do, you don't want to chase debtors and you don't enjoy doing it. So go ahead and list that down there. Another task can be rostering, for example. You don't enjoy rostering. So put that on the second box right there. And then the third box is you don't have time to do, and these are still things that are still on your to-do list from 3 weeks ago, and it's still gonna be there 3 weeks after. Put it right there. And then, so example, by the way, on the third box can be like researches. Maybe you had to like update a new process. You know that you have to update your employee bulletin. You know that you have to do some things in preparation for the accreditation that's coming up. And that can be on your to-do list right here. And then the last box is tasks that only you can do. And as a practice manager, ideally, this should only be 3 to 5 tasks. Kelly says, I need bigger boxes. I feel you, Kelly. So anyways, on the fourth box, it says tasks that only you can do. And it should only be 3 to 5 tasks as a practice manager or as an owner. And you're sitting there right now telling me that's not accurate. May I do 1 million things for my clinic? Well, then that's why I'm asking you to do this after the webinar, because maybe you need a minute for yourself, sit down and really look at the things that you're currently doing. And maybe have a reflection of, is this something that I can assign to someone else? Is it something that only I can do? Or is it something that I can delegate onto someone else? Because then maybe the task that you're currently working on that is represented by the red right here are things that you can delegate, that can free up your time so that you can actually focus on the things that only you can do. Because I know as a practice manager, you have one of the most important tasks, like aside from the doctors, aside from all of the other staff that you have as a practice manager to keep the mechanism of the business going, you have some of the most important tasks. And maybe those are being neglected right now because you're busy working in the business instead of working on the business. So go ahead and have a reflect. If you're still unsure, if you're still like, you want more information about this, head on to our clarity call, speak with one of our offsite specialists who's going to run our scores for you, and then who's going to let you know if it's indeed something that we can help you work on. Now, jumping back onto our thing right here, we're going to give you 3 hot principles on how you can properly assign a task to someone else. Number 1, in assigning tasks, you have to assign it to somebody who gets it. Now, when we say somebody who gets it, it's not just a person who understands step 1 to step 11. It's not just really like that. A person who gets it would mean that they understand the impact of what they do. That in case that they miss on doing the task that is assigned to them, they know that it's going to affect something, no matter how small it is. Take a look, for example, allocation can be such a mundane task, can be such a routine task, can be such a very small task, right? Because you're just there ticking off the boxes, typing the subject of this, ensuring that it's allocated to the right patient, the right user. So it can be really minute. But the moment that we missed out on allocating it to the right patient, I guarantee you it's going to affect a whole lot of things. It's going to affect how the doctor is going to read this. It's going to affect, maybe that was an important pathology result right there that the doctor had to review, and it's now missed because the person didn't understand the impact of what they do. So you need to ensure that when you're assigning tasks, you are assigning it to the person who gets it, who 100% gets it. And of course, you want to be assigning it to a person who wants it, because if you don't assign tasks to a person who doesn't want it, I guarantee they'll only give you the bare minimum. When I say bare minimum, they're just gonna go, okay, here you go, done. But sometimes you sit there at your table receiving the projects or the finished task that is given to you by your members, and you're gonna go and say, why can't my people go above and beyond? Maybe it's because you're not assigning it to the people who wants it. So the people who wants it, number 1, they're gonna look at the task from a bird's eyes view. So when we say that, for example, you're assigning a 10997 to a person, right? So they're going into the patient record, checking if this patient is potential for a 10997, going into the billing history, see how much they have accumulated already. A person who wants it, I guarantee you, will also list down the people who are eligible for CDM renewals or for GPMP renewals. Maybe this patient is up for the GPMP renewal. Maybe this person is up for a health assessment because you're already there in the patient record. So you're seeing this as you go. And this person who wants it is also going to list it out for you. Now, let me know in the chat box right now. Don't you just want someone who's like that? Like somebody who works on things before they even become a problem, or somebody who actually revenues things for you or generates things for you, which can be a potential revenue for your clinic. And that can only happen if you are assigning it to a person who wants it. Then, of course, you actually have an influence on this. You have to assign it to a person who has the capacity to do it. So in checking in the capacity, we're not just really talking about the bulk of tasks, but you kind of have to look at, is this person properly trained? Has this person been supplied with the proper resources? Do they indeed have the capacity to do it? Or maybe checking on their productivity, right? Maybe you're assigning it to someone who's overutilized already. That's why you don't get the result. Because when people have a lot of things to work on, they're gonna go ahead and do things, very fast, that they miss out on some of the things, or maybe they're just also going to give you the bare minimum. So you have to check on that. And then also you want to check on people who are underutilized, like they have a lot of free time. So maybe it's time to assign them some of the tasks that you are currently having, that you have things that are pending on. And that basically is tasks right now. Now, let me know in the chat box, what is one insight for you so far? Kelly says, yes, please. You want a person who would go above and beyond, who's just really so proactive, who generates a lot of things that can be a revenue for your clinic. Go ahead and type that in the chat box right now. What is one highlight for you in terms of tasks? And then if you also can put in there, what is one action that you want to take right now? Because if an action for you as you're typing is you want a hero for yourself, you can go ahead and go to schedule a clarity call, or you can also go to our website, see a lot of things that has been done already for some of the clinics that we do, and then let us know in the chat box right there. Moving on, as you're busy typing, or maybe you're just still thinking things through, or maybe you're just writing it down in your webinar. To me, it's important that you go out of this webinar learning something. It's not really you driving to sign up with us. That can be an after effect of this webinar. But to me, the main important things, and I think I speak in behalf of the GP Hero team, that we want to share something so important to everyone. So just go ahead and write something on your workbook, or maybe let us know in the chat box right now. Right, moving on to the next metric right here, which is training. As I've said, this is a fundamental aspect in everything. In everything that you do, if you want your company or your clinic to be successful, you need to ensure the training is in place. So number one in training, like I said, is resources. So when it comes to resources, you, like I said, cannot expect a person to learn something when you have not provided anything. So you can't expect a person to be doing allocation accurately, or to be understanding this Medicare rejections, or even simpler, you can't expect a person to book an appointment properly for a patient if you haven't provided resources. Like, each clinic, we have our own way of identifying how we want to book a new patient. We also have our way of identifying how we want to do our recalls, our results, how we want to manage that. And that can already be clearly lined out or outlined for your team if you have resources in place. But the number one thing with the resources, I say, is that sometimes it takes time and it takes a lot of your brain power to create it. Is it? Like maybe you're sitting there right now thinking, I have 11 tasks, and out of the 11 tasks, I only have 3 resources in place. What am I going to do with the rest? Does it mean that I have to take 1 week to complete all of this? don't worry, we have a helpful tip coming up next. But after resources, of course, you need a trainer. So when we say you need a trainer, putting a trainer in place is putting someone accountable, meaning you have a person to go to and check if things are being properly taught. And if I can just share, um, some of our clients would come to us and say, May, here is the list of things that I have that I need to help on, but I don't have the time to train a person. And that's always the case because that's actually true. You don't have the time because you're so busy. So what we always tell our client is that provide us the resources that you currently have, like provide us with your SOPs, provide us with your workflow, or if it's an inbound calls, go and sit down with a meeting with us and build out that call mapping flow so there's less bouncing back and forth. And then give that to us. The training department is going to take care 80% of the training, whereas you have to do 20%. And I always say it should be like that because we can't take 100%. Why? Because your voice has to be said in it. Your point of view has to be said in it. No matter if you already have a trainer in place, you as the practice manager, you need to ensure that the person understands this. And that can be done via competency check, right? So in competency check, you're not only checking if the training is effective, if the resources is effective, you're also checking if the trainer that you have in place is indeed effective, if the person understands the trainer. So jumping back onto our workbook right now, in the training part, imagine that this circle that you have right now represents all of the tasks that you have listed because you already done listing all of the tasks that you did, that you have rather in your clinic. So after tasks, of course, comes training. Now let us know, create a pie chart in your workbook and maybe divide this into identify which of the tasks or how much of the tasks that you have listed do you have resources on. So what you're going to want to do is maybe like this. You can tell that I'm quite an artist based on my drawing right here. I can draw a so straight line. So maybe the green right here represents that you already have resources in place for half of the accruage of tasks that you have. And then for half of that, which is represented by red, these are tasks that you don't have resources on yet. Yep. Okay. So green right there again represents that resources in place. And the red signifies that resources not in place. Yep. So you have to identify that because it's the first, like I always say, problem identification is a must before you ever work a problem. Otherwise, you're just wasting a lot of your brain power working on something that you haven't identified yet with. So jumping back into our workbook, as you're dividing your pie charts right there, we're going to give you 3 hot principles on what you can do to create those resources or what are the specific resources that you have to create for your clinic. Number 1, you need to have a checklist. And so when we say checklist, you need to have a way of, a list of things that you have to do, kind of like in identifying the tasks. And along in those tasks, you need to have like a step-by-step process of what you want. Like, for allocation, step 1 is date should be, some clinics would have it like date based on the document, whatever is the date on the document, or some of the clinics would have the date as when the allocation is done, because those two sometimes differ. So those things has to be properly identified based on the checklist that you have. The next thing that you have to build is process, and this is very important because process is a guiding map for your team on how you want tasks to be properly done. And like I said, this gives your low performers a way for them to to rise up to the level of your high performers. So you need to have resources on your process in place. Then, of course, for people who are taking in phone call, and technically for anything doing patient-facing roles, you need to have a script. Script is your branding. And then script also outlines what must be specifically asked and what must be specifically said during the call. It's not like I'm asking you to create a verbatim speech because, with the years of that I've worked in the BPO industry, most of the time when you're working for a telco company, they give you a script and this is what you say to the customer. It doesn't have to be like that, but a guiding script for your team would actually guide them on how, or would actually give them a better version of how you want patients to be treated. Like, do you want someone who's really professional over the phone? Or maybe you want someone who's confident, who's professional, but also is very enthusiastic over the phone. Or maybe you need someone who finds grace in handling those difficult conversations with your patients. So with a script like that, it's going to guide your team. And then, of course, you need templates in your clinic. Now, giving you a success story, really, we've had a clinic before who's still is still in partner with us really right now. And she was one of that practice manager who came to us and said, these are the tasks that I have. And then I don't have a resource in place, or maybe I have, but I'm not sure if it's ever going to work for you. So what they did, the name of the doctor is Dr. Julian Fox of Tambourine Village Medical. So what they did for us is that they gave us all of the SOPs that they currently have and versus the task that was outlined on the onboarding. So what we told them is that we are missing some of the resources on this. And then what this practice manager did, his name is Adit for Dr. Julian Fox. What he did is he went down and created resources for his team, meaning he created the resources for his GP Hero VA, and then he also created resources that is in line with what was created for the onshore team. So everyone is in par on what they did. So, because of that, even with the offshore team, even with the offshore person, the onshore team is comfortable that this person is doing the same thing that the onshore person is doing because of the resources that was built by the practice manager. Now you're looking at me right now and maybe you're thinking to yourself, resources just takes a lot of time. And that's really true because it takes a lot of your brain power, doesn't it? But here's a helpful tip. We already have AIs in place. So what you want to do in your workbook right now, we're going to give you a tip on how you can do or how you can create resources using AIs. And we're going to do that with a very famous AI, ChatGPT. So if you're missing out on chat, if you haven't used it, you're kind of missing on a lot of things because before it takes about 100% of our brain power. Now it only takes about the AI is going to do 70% of the job for us. So I'm going to say 70% because even with its advancement in technology, it's never ever accurate, meaning you still have to do your part in ensuring that you tweak it to your clinic's specifications. So in your workbook, you will see that we have already given you a prompt on how you can create checklists because that is the key with AI. With any AI that you use, you need to be very specific and you need to be very good with your prompts to get the results that you want. So what you want to do after this webinar is you just enter this prompt right here and you just insert the task that you're missing a checklist on. Maybe it's a checklist for creating a patient appointment scheduling, or maybe it's a checklist on your daily clinic opening and closing procedures. So you can enter this prompt into ChatGPT and just insert the task that you currently don't have a checklist on. We've also we also have a task list on, I'm sorry, a prompt right here wherein you can enter in ChatGPT so that it would help you design process maps. So what you just need to do is enter the prompt and then enter the process where you're missing or you don't have a process built on. So maybe it's a process for managing patient requests for your patient information. Maybe it's this here. It's the same thing with creating phone scripts. You only have to ask it to create a phone script using the prompt that we have provided. I guarantee we have used it already and it has worked wonder for us. Whenever a client is, they come to us and say, I don't have an SOP in place. Sometimes because we understand the severity of their business and the graveness of their time conflict, that they just really don't have the time. So what we would do for them is we would create the SOP with the help of AIs. And this is what we normally do. So with phone scripts, you just ask it to create a phone script, and then you just have to enter the type of call that you don't have a script yet. And it's the same with templates. So that's in your workbook already. Your only part is you only need to enter this part right here. So let's jump back into the webinar and tell me right now, what is one highlight for you so far? We're hoping that we're gonna get, some interaction in the chat box. Let us know. Are you learning something? Is something like really making you sit there and really reflect? This is something that I have to do for my team. Like if I want changes, if I want to see changes, I really have to do this for my team right here. So let us know in the chat box, or if you're not comfortable, of course, you always can use your workbook, write it out on your workbook, and then let us know what is or work like right there. What is one note for you so far? And how is this going on for you? And then also you want to go ahead and note what's one action that you want to take at this point in time. And then as I'm actually very conscious of my time because I know you're busy with other things, we're going to jump into communication. So as I've said, the key ingredient in ensuring that an offshore relationship is going to work is trust. You need to trust the person that you don't see physically on a daily basis, right? If you don't ever trust the person that's working for you offshore, I tell you, it's going to cause unnecessary stress for both sides. And I always see this as a pattern. Whenever a virtual assistant breaks the trust of the client, everything else goes downhill. Like from that moment when the trust is broken, once a mistake is committed, no matter how small or how big it is, it's going to be a big deal for the practice manager because the trust has already been broken. And if we want to ensure that we're fostering proper communication within our team, we need to ensure that we have communication in place. We need to ensure that we're building that trust through communication. So first step, if you remember, in communication is to collaborate. So when we say collaborate, people should feel like their ideas are welcome, right? No, if I can just share a success story with this, it is with one of our clinics. I think the name of the practice manager is, oh, it's at the top of my head. I think her name is, I know the clinic is M3 Health, but I forgot the name because she's currently on maternity leave right now. So with M3 Health, initially when they started with us, they had around, if my memory serves me right, $200,000 worth of doctors that they have to chase. And so she thought of a way to perhaps ask the VA on how the VA can help her with chasing these debtors, because she understands that the current process that she has right now, or the current way that they're doing it, is not really as effective, or not really there. She's not getting the results that she wants. So what the VA then did is, built out a way for her, or built out a suggestion. And the VA was freely giving the idea because she felt like her manager was very collaborative. And if you need brilliant ideas like that for your clinic, you need to ensure that your people understands that you want this to be a collaborative effort. Like whenever I do onboarding, people would always come to me and say, I need someone who's proactive. I need someone who can take initiative. Then when the initiative comes, sometimes our failures as managers is that we block off that brilliant ideas when in the beginning we said we want someone who's very good in taking initiative, right? So we want to ensure that as practice managers as well, or as owners of the business, we want to ensure that there is collaboration within the team, because nobody holds the monopoly of ideas. We all can learn from one another. And that can only happen when we're collaborative. Then, of course, people should be comfortable to ask for help in your clinic. And when we say that, you need to set proper expectations on how this looks like for you. Because for some clinics, like I said, they're okay with people coming in, barging on the door, or maybe chatting them and say, I need help with this. And some clinics would want their people to implement the 131 problem solving method. If you've never heard of the 131, 131 is: one, I have identified the problem. Three, here are three possible solutions. And then one, I think this is the most suitable solution. So you have someone who's proactive, but you also have someone who's very respectful of your boundaries as a practice manager, because some things has to be taken up to you for consideration, especially if it's, something that has to be a business decision. So if it's like that for you, you need to properly communicate that to your team. But we should always let our team know that they can always come to us if they need help. Like, asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Asking for help is a sign that, you are identifying that there's something that must be worked on. And like I always say, from the time that I started this webinar, the moment that you're able to identify a problem, you're already solving 50% of your problem. So people should be comfortable to go ahead and ask for help, but you also have to set your expectation on how people can ask help from you. And then, of course, if you're unavailable, right? If you're unavailable, you need to ensure that there is another person in charge that can take over in case anyone asks for help. What I mean when I say that is, whenever I do onboarding with some of our clients, I always tell them that aside from you, do you have anyone who's a point of contact? Because it has to be a specific person as well. Because if you're just putting a new person out into the ocean with a lot of people that they have to communicate with, the moment something goes wrong, your initial question is, who taught you that? Right? And when you assign a specific person, you don't even have to ask that question because you know who to ask. Like, you know who to refer to in case something goes wrong. But if you assign it and to anyone else, technically everyone has gonna is gonna be dipping in the sauce. And when everybody's gonna dip in the sauce, you wouldn't know, like, where do you trace why the sauce is already gone. Right. And then that's actually what happened with one of our clients as well. Initially, when she came to us, she was really so excited to start with a hero. And so we told her that, people must have a way, like when we have questions, where do we go to? And she was like, oh, just flag it in the F8 and anyone in the receptionist can answer. That's well okay if, like, if you have like 2 3 receptionists, but when you have 10 receptionists, or maybe you have 5 receptionists working for you, that's not ever really effective because people are going to have different point of things. So in asking for help, like I said, there has to be a specific person, and then there has to be, aside from yourself, there has to be a specific person, and you also have to clearly outline how does that look like for you. And then, of course, comes the last part of this metric, which is closing the loop. So in communication, closing the loop is very important, right? So imagine this: when you assign a task to someone, or when you ask someone to do something for you, that's an open loop right there. Or to be more relatable, if you assign a task to someone, that's like opening a new tab in a Chrome browser. Now, what you expect for that person to do is to close the loop, meaning close out that tab. And when we say close out the loop, you expect people to be reporting to you what is the progression of the task. Is it currently done or not done? Is it being worked on? Did they have any challenges when they were working the task? Because chances are, if people are not very communicative with what they're doing, it's going to stay at the top of your head. And I see this all the time with all of the managers that I've worked with. Whenever it stays on the top of your head, you're going to end up thinking, it's better that I do it myself. And then that defeats the purpose of having someone there. Also, it's causing you to add more workload on top of the amounts of workload that you already have to work on, all because it stems down from not closing the loop. So you want to be able to close the loop into you want to be able to tell your team that they have to close the loop. But how do you do that? We're going to give you 3 hot principles in a bit, but jumping on to the workbook right now, we want to know where are you in terms of your communication. So we're going to build out what you want to do on your workbook is you want to divide this into 4 tiers, just like that. And then you're going to color, oops, just right. You're going to color the bottom 3 tiers as red because anything that's not 100% should be red, right? Anything that's not 100% should be below standards. And then the last tier right there gets green. So what do each of this level identify or signify is number one, this bottom tier right here says no accountability. And you can write this with me as I go, no responsibility. Oops. The second tier right there is open loops. The third tier, so as you see, even if it's like pretty close to the tip, I still color it red because like I said, 100%, I mean, anything that's less than 100% is not 100%. So this can be done, but not up to standards. Right? And then this is closed loops. Oh, wait, that changed though. Okay. Like that. So you are wanting to grade your team as to where do you really think you lie based on the communication tier right there. Do you maybe lie in the bottom tier wherein no accountability, no responsibility, meaning of the moment, for example, the moment something goes wrong, nobody wants to take accountability for the mistake that they did, and they always are going to deflect that onto someone else. That means that your team members is somehow in the red, in a very dark red, I would say, because they don't take accountability for the things that they did. That actually is a big contributor when it comes to communications. The second part to that is open loops, meaning when you assign a task to someone, you don't ever hear back anything unless it gets done or unless you do the thing of following up. So that's open loops right there. And then the third year, which is done but not up to standards, should mean that people indeed complete whatever you ask of them. People indeed communicate, but sometimes you wish that people would do more just based off on what you have put out there for them. And then of course you have the top tier, which is closed loops, because what we're trying to do right here is do make you see where you are in terms of communication, because I'll say it over and over again. You have to identify before you can properly solve something, right? And a helpful tip for everyone right here, if you want to communicate a task, never do it synchronously. Meaning, always document it and hand over it. May it be in a written format, may it be through a document, or maybe you want to do a Loom video of it. Because if you can imagine, when you assign a task and you're just verbally assigning it to a person, chances are you're going to get interrupted. Then when you get interrupted, you're going to lose your trail of thoughts. And when you lose your trail of thoughts, you will miss out on some important details surrounding this task. Whereas, if you have written it or if you did the Loom video of it, you are clearly outlining, no interruptions, and you have a clear head of what this should be. And aside from that, if a person forgets something that was said, they can just go to the Loom video or they can just go to the document that you have written, right? And we also have built out a communication framework right here for you on how you would want to assign it to someone else, like who, the what, the when, why, and can you. So go ahead and check that out on your workbook, maybe after the webinar, and have a deeper study on how you can perhaps do a communication framework. Because going back to that webinar right there, we're going to now give you three hot principles on how you can enforce your team to close the loop. Number one is, of course, you need to have expectations. You need to ask people, you need to set expectations really. So all the time, our good job can be a different good job for someone else, right? I always say that. So we have to properly set expectations for the team. You know, setting unclear expectations can be so bad, but maybe you're not conscious that you're doing it. For example, an unclear expectation, you would say, I need my emails sorted. So that is you giving an instruction, but then you're actually not setting your proper expectation because you didn't set a goal for the person, right? A proper expectation is going to look like this. I need all of my emails sorted before 12 noon, and those spams, I need it to be cleared out. Anything that you're not sure of, report it back to me. Anything that I have to reply on, let me know. That's setting proper expectations. When you do that, you are giving yourself a way out of disappointments. And at the same time, you are guiding your people on what results do you want to see. And that can only be done if you set your expectations clearly with your team. Kindly ask yourself in the task that you have right now, what is your proper expectation? Like, for example, if you've assigned someone an allocation, when do you need that? Like, how much of the documents must be done within an hour, for example, right? And then, of course, it has to be a habit. So, the first time that you enforce this, it's gonna be maybe it will take more of you reminding your team, like, hey team, we have to close the loop. Remember that we need to be reporting these things and all that. But as soon as you put it into practice, everyone is gonna put it into habit. And when it becomes a habit for everyone, you don't even have to tell them because it's already included in the habit of what they do. And if you want to see that more consistently on your team, you need to make it a habit for your team as well. And then, of course, you need to do a positive reinforcement. I always believe in you are a leader or you are a boss, not because of your position. And people are not just going to respect you because of your position, but people are going to respect you because of how you treated them. Right. And so with this coming into place, there will be disappointments. The first time that you enforce it, maybe you will be discouraged, or maybe a person forgets to do it. Just don't forget to reinforce that in a positive way. Because when we reinforce something in a positive way, it actually opens up the willingness of a person to accept that wholeheartedly, right? I always say to everyone, when you have to praise, do it publicly, and then when you have to correct, do it privately. So whatever works for you in the aspect of positive reinforcement, go ahead and implement it yourself. And then of course, that's the thing about communication. So let's get some shares right now. What is one insight so far? And I'm not gonna, I'm not just gonna sit here and like skip you over. Go ahead, please, and write something in our chat box right now. And then what's one action for you? I'm gonna give you 2 minutes on my clock to type on something because we're still well within our time frame right now. Come on, you can type something. I'm still here. 1 minute left for your insights. Thank you, Natula. Thank you so much. Setting expectation is a brilliant idea. I couldn't agree more. And then of course, if you are writing that on your workbook, all the better because that's something of a personal reflection for you guys. And then I also want to ask, what's one action that you want to take right now? Because out of all the topics that we have talked about and all of the metrics that we have talked about so far, if you're looking at your workbook and you're seeing a lot of reds, who here wants to take that reds and make it into orange? And who here, if you're an orange, wants to make that green? And if you're already green, who here wants to make that dark green? Like, I'm sure everyone wants that in this call right now, because what you can do, what's one action that we can tell you is you can jump on a clarity call, and we have the QR code right now that's going to take you to schedule. Romeo is also going to drop that link just in case you don't have a way to scan this QR code right now. So what happens in a clarity call, you may ask, is you will have a meeting with an offsite specialist. It's not a sales call. We just we technically work with the GPs or with the GP clinics who also wants to undergo the process, because like I said, you don't go to us, ask for a person, and then we automatically sit someone right there. You also have to do your part in ensuring that this is a success for your clinic as well, because it's a symbiotic process. When you do your part and when we do our part and both efforts come together beautifully, you will see tremendous impact, awesome impact, beautiful results. And we see it time and time again with the clinics that we have right now. And we've worked with 80 clinics already and more in the basket as we're onboarding new clinics right now. So go and scan the code. What's going to happen in a clarity call is that our upside specialist is going to run through your scores, is going to ask and check on the things that you need to work on. And then there are two things that can come out of this clarity call. The first outcome can be that you will sign up with GP Hero and that you will get a VA for yourself. The second come out can be that you will not be joining GP Hero, but you will walk out of that clarity call having a clear idea as to what you need for your clinic. So it's not technically a sales call. It's really just a clarity call to get you to get you clarified on things. And then we're going to jump into a Q&A. If ever we have questions, go ahead and chat that on the chat box right now, because for some of you, maybe one question that you have is, how much does it cost to be with GP Hero? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to doodle myself out of this. Yep. So I'm going to build a very straight line for everyone, right? So the pricing, because we want to be very clear about this as well. Maybe this is what you're waiting for before you sign up, or maybe you jump into the clarity call. The cost is $2,250 plus GST, and that's your sign up fee. Okay. And then there's another 2,250 plus GST. And that there is monthly payment that should be paid in advance. And for a minimum of 12 months. So your initial sign up would mean that 2,250 and then another 2,250 because the monthly thing has to be paid in advance. So what do you get out of that 2,250? Number one is that you will have a hero placement call. So what do we mean by hero placement call? It means that during this call, we will get your unique needs for your clinic. We will get the skills of what it is that you're looking for in a hero, because it's important to us that we not only match you with a person who's well-trained, we also match you with a person who has the right skills, and more importantly, who has the right behaviors that would fit your clinic. And then aside from a hero placement call, you also will get a fully trained hero, of course. And then aside from a fully trained hero, you will have a secure setup, meaning Our IT is going to connect with your IT provider, and we're going to make ways to connect to your VPN. We're going to set up the tools to ensure that it works up to standards. And then whatever, you just have to provide the logins because we'll take care and help you out with the tool setup. And then, of course, you will have a flight plan. So the flight plan is outlining the initial tasks of your hero. Normally, we start with 5 tasks, and then this actually helps us integrate and smoothly do the transition for your hero to be fully integrated into your clinic. The flight plan is also a success map to ensure that the hero that you have right now is performing up to your standards. So we have weekly debriefs in that timeline. We have checkups with the VAs in case that they're doing something, meaning they're being looked at under a microscope to ensure that they're really performing up to your standards. And then with your stay with GP Hero, you always will have ongoing support, meaning we have IT in place to ensure that we help out with your IT. We also have dedicated managers and trainers to help support your needs. We also have a QA specialist to ensure that your VA is performing up to standards. So with a QA in place, we always do a monthly evaluation wherein that's also feedback to you to ensure that you know that where does your hero lie in terms of performance, and we have metrics in place to ensure that we are targeting the right things to ensure our person is working up to standards right there. So jumping back into the webinar, who here has a question? Like I have 3 minutes left. Which software are you using for this? And is it integrated to my system? Because we're using HotDoc as well. With regards to software, the practice management software that we train our people on are Best Practice, Praxsoft or Medical Director, Gen2, and Clinical. If there are any new practice management softwares that is in place, in fairness, they almost work like almost the same as well with the other practice management software. So you just have to let us know what are the tools. Praxoft, yep, we have trained our people for that. And then of course, we also train our people to be fully trained with third-party application like what you have here, HotDoc, as well as Automed and Health Engine, and of course, very important CRM right now, which is Cubico, wherein you see all the metrics and you also can do revenue generating things inside Cubico. We also train our people to do, some of them are doing accounting. So we train them for Zero to ensure that they know how to balance, especially those work cover insurances that are coming into play. So there's a whole lot of softwares that we have trained our people on. What we do is that when somebody new comes on board, you go through an onboarding session with me, wherein we specifically list out what are the tools that you are currently using for your clinic. And yeah, Delvir, to confirm, Praxop is one of the softwares that we train our people on. It's a very common tool here as well. Anyone else have a question? We have
Can
1
I
minute
ask you
left.
one thing?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm talking regards to the insurance. Like when you are using the software for the data breach and the privacy act in Australia. So my my insurance doesn't cover anything outside of the Australia. So
Yeah.
how can you cover the insurance thing, and which kind of insurance do you have to cover these things?
Yeah, that's actually covered. We have an insurance in place, covered for all of our partnered clinics. But if you want specifics on that, you can jump on a clarity call and speak with our offsite specialist to help you unpack what is indeed inside the insurance that we have built to ensure that both parties are well covered. And then
Okay.
how do we connect to the data that you have in Australia is through a VPN setup, meaning
So
our Mhm.
So I can understand VPN, but when in terms of patient's information, you know about PII,
Yeah.
right? So when you are doing that PII thing, and if someone found fraud in that thing, then my insurance company doesn't cover. So uh, how can you handle the EII and how can you cover that thing as well?
Do you mean like when somebody commits?
So like if some one of the patient is calling in our system and he he gave us a Medicaid card number and date of birth and
Yeah.
name and the other things. So it is highly specified information according to the ocean and laws. Yeah. So if you are going overseas, so most of the insurance company, my insurance company is Vedant, they
Yeah,
don't cover that thing. Yeah.
yeah. I
So
understand.
how do you cover that thing?
That is well covered within our insurance. Like I said, I don't have the specifics in front of me, but I can guarantee 100% our
Mm,
insurance covers that part. For any information going out of Australia, because that's protected
mm,
by the Australian privacy principles, where we train our people on as well to handle information securely. So anything that's traveling outside of Australia, that's well covered by our insurance. I don't have the specifics right in front of me, but
okay.
our
Can
offsite
you
special. Hmm?
can you book someone for these things?
Sorry, what was that again?
Can you book someone for me for these
Yeah,
things?
you actually can. Romeo, can you go ahead and drop on there you go. So if you open our chat box on Zoom right now,
Mm,
you have a link wherein you can actually book that clarity call with our offsite specialist.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your questions. And this has been very
Yeah.
lovely, everyone. Sorry, did you have any more questions?
No, no, no. Thank you. I just need to ask these things because it is.
Of
I have
course.
no. Yeah.
Yeah, of
So
course. It's
the
an
laws
important
and the thing
stuff.
we have to do.
Yeah, something that you have to take care on. Don't worry, we've covered everything for you. And like I said, the clarity call is going to make it all really specific for you. And the offsite specialist can like highlight which part of our insurance, because I know 100% all our
Mm,
insurance right now is covered by the insurance that we have set. So
mm,
because you don't have any more questions, thank you so much everyone for attending this first ever webinar with us. We are so happy that you can join us, and we hope really personally as well, we hope that you learned something. We hope that you got something out of this. Even if it doesn't mean that you're going to sign up with us, that's okay. What's important to us is that you learn and that you got something out of this, and it's something that you can implement on your team. Don't forget to check out our website, www.gphero.com, just in case you have any questions or just in case you're checking on the services that you need to cover it on. And then if, like I said, um you need a recording of this, we will send it to you via email. Our GP Euro team is going to take care of that. Stay safe, everyone, and God bless you all. We'll do this on a monthly thing, so we hope to see you on the next webinar. Bye, everyone. Cheers.